All right, now welcome back to Generation X Nation. First things first, I want to thank every single person who has subscribed to my channel, who has left a comment, who has hit that like button, who has shared my channel. Please continue to do so. I definitely appreciate it. I can see my subscribers are growing a little bit. It's still a slow crawl, but we getting there. Okay? Next, everything on my channel is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. And last but not least, I do my commentary based on what I see on the television screen week to week. I do not have a favorite. I do not have a dog in this fight. Okay? I just do my commentary based on what they give me on the screen. And I know reality TV shows are edited, so we only get so much of the truth or the actual scene. And now, going forward, with that being said, let's start off with this Britt and Kenya issue. But before I get too deep into that, I want to talk about Angela just for a few minutes because she intrigues me. She really intrigues me. Angela is a young lady who is married to Charles Oakley, I believe that's his name, who was the basketball player. And she had a conversation with her daughter about one, the daughter being kicked out of the home that she bought for her mother and her sister. She did mention that her mother was going through some type of mental illness, and apparently her mother feels that she is healed now. And the daughter and the mom, which is her grandmother, got into it, and grandma kicked her out. And her daughter feels some kind of way, and so does Angela. Now, Angela is kind of caught in between, who do I defend, my mom or my daughter? And I guess she said, hey, I have to choose my daughter at this point. She doesn't know why her sister, which is the girl's aunt, is involved in the conversation or the argument, but the sister's there too. And the daughter's like, hey, you're sitting here taking care of all of these people financially. You bought her a house, and you're taking care of your sister, and she don't feel her mother, Angela, should have to be taking care of the sister. They understand the obligation to the grandmother, but they don't understand why the sister's there talking smack. So that should be an interesting storyline, and it kind of gives us a reason why Charles Oakley said what he said about her family last week. He kind of felt some kind of way about her mom. I think they had gotten to a big altercation and things like that. So now I'm kind of understanding that. That's a very, very good dynamic. I would like to see a lot of that play out. I like Angela. She seems to be very level headed, and that's what they need on the show, a very level headed person. I guess she's kind of a Cynthia replacement type lady because Cynthia's a friend of the show. And Cynthia was a more level headed kind of, played, she was on the fence, she didn't hate or love certain people. And I think Angela is the type of person who would give me more of a Cynthia vibe. She has her own things going on, but she seems to be very level headed, highly intelligent, but she does have her family dynamics that she needs to work out. And then also they discussed that the daughter had gotten married. I think she said she had been married for 2 or 4 months, at least 2 months or more. And she never told her mom, but the sister and the grandmother knew. Now that was odd to me because the daughter's coming to you in this aspect because she got thrown out of the house, with the mom and the auntie there. And then she's upset with them, but then she's not close enough to you to tell you that she got married, but they knew. So I'm kind of mixed like, okay, daughter, where we at here? You arguing with the grandma, but grandma auntie knew you was married, and now you're over here telling on grandma auntie and trying to get them in trouble because they threw you out the house. I'm not saying her daughter's playing both sides, but we need to really see how the dynamics of that relationship works out. All right. So with that being said, that's just kind of the closure there on that. I think it's a pretty interesting story, and I'm trying to see how this all plays out and who's really the villain and who's not. If it's Charles, if it's Angela, if her family's taking advantage of her financially. That's going to be an interesting storyline. All right. So let's move forward to what was happening in the show. So they all meet up at Shamia's house, estate, mansion, I don't know, palace, whatever you want to call it, because Shamia is living large, okay? So they all meet up there. And the first thing Angela did say was, hey, I got a lot of backlash from y'all foolishness. And I guess they didn't think about that. She's saying, I guess the people who run that particular place, the vault, where they had the dinner at the previous night when everything popped off, she said, hey, I got some backlash behind it. And people called me because of the way y'all was acting. And I kind of understood Angela being a little upset about that. So, everybody was like, "Oh, I didn't know." I guess they didn't understand that she was getting phone calls just like they were getting phone calls. Um, Fast forward, Britt comes in and she starts explaining what happened in her version. Kenya was intimidating her. She kept cutting her off when she was trying to talk. Kenya has this nasty disposition and attitude, and she just didn't like the way she came off with her when they first met, and on and on. She felt Kenya was trying to provoke her and everything else. And Shamia was just kind of looking because, like the rest of us, I didn't really see all of that. I think Kenya was just talking. We've seen Kenya worse. Let's just say that. We watched the show long enough to know that Kenya can go there. Okay. So I'm like, I don't see where she was provoking you. But if that's what you felt, like, again, we don't see the whole episodes because they do edit stuff. So it could have been other things said that Kenya done that they edited out to make it look like Kenya wasn't doing anything to provoke her. So we can't really say that that happened or didn't happen. Um, and Shamia, she's kind of, still looking like, okay, all right. Well, you think you can maybe, I guess they were trying to figure out a way for her to apologize to Kenya. She mentioned something about Kenya having the opening of her new salon, and she asked her, did she get an invite? And she said, I guess she got an invite. She invited everybody. And I think Shamia knew then, like, she gave you an invite. She already knew. I think in her mind, she was thinking Kenya's cooking something up. But, they kind of talked it out, and Britt finally admit, I was wrong. I probably went too far with Kenya, and I probably should, apologize to her. Maybe I'll come there and apologize to her for what I did. I would never want her to believe that I would hurt her. I didn't want to think, her to think I was threatening her in any kind of way. She went into that whole apology thing. Now, I will say this. I do my commentary fair and square. Last week, I was all over Britt's behind because I felt what she did was wrong, very threatening, and she should never said what she said. But again, as I always say, they do edit stuff, so we don't know exactly what was said and what was cut out. I'll just leave it at that. So they finish up that scene. Everybody decides, okay, she's going to apologize. We'll see you there. Now I'm thinking, girl, I know Kenya. You might want to call Kenya or meet up with Kenya before you pop your behind up to her event. You might want to test the waters. You might want to see if it's still hot or not. Don't just show up. We know Kenya. We remember Kenya Moore hair care at Marlo's event. We know Kenya gonna get back at you. We remember Kenya wearing some short booty swimming suit trying to mock Phaedra in front of Apollo at a swimming pool one time. Kenya has done some things. Let's just say that. So when you do cross Kenya, girl, please be on your guard. So moving forward, then we had Portia, Kelly, and who was that? Portia, Kelly, and Kenya meet up. They're discussing the events. Kenya did admit she invited everybody. Portia thinking in her mind, I know Kenya. She gonna need to get her lick back. Portia already know Kenya plotting something. Kenya never admits anything. She just says she felt threatened. This didn't have to happen. I felt disrespected. Kenya said, she wants she says she wants to get her grand opening off to a nice start. They're sitting there looking at the models and this, that, and the third. Kelly has security. Kenya has security there. Portia was like, whatever, I don't need security. So they went on and did their thing. Britt, from what I hear, well, we'll talk about her in a minute. But anyway, they sat down, they did the little modeling thing and all of that. But when Portia and them got to talking to her about the whole episode with Britt, Kenya was just kind of, she was pissed off. She was hurt. She can't believe that this girl has threatened her like that and everything. But at the same time, she didn't feel anything she said warrant she didn't feel anything that she said at the table warrant the actions in which Britt had toward her as far as being aggressive. Because Kenya did get, in Kenya's defense, she got up and she started walking out. She kept quiet and she got in the car and rode on off into the sunset. Now, Portia kind of feels like Kenya's just way too calm. She's not going off. I believe is plotting something. So what Portia did, she tried to run over there and talk with Britt real quick, and try to get Britt to, sit down and have a conversation. And I think Portia was trying to get Britt to go in there and apologize to Kenya before the event. And so she was telling her, talking to her, they were sitting down together, and she was like, I just didn't like the way Kenya was dismissive to me. She was talking about my wedding ring and, all of that. And Portia's like, I don't think you want to go toe to toe with Kenya. She said, they were like, this is a different kind of Kenya. This is you met a different Kenya than what we used to seeing. And Portia was right. You don't want to go toe to toe with Kenya like that. Now, I'm not justifying what Kenya did, but Britt just kind of like talking about her and this wedding ring issue. And I said it in my last review. The only thing I seen Kenya said was something about the wedding ring, asking her, was it new or did she, whatever. And Britt felt some kind of way about this wedding ring. And there was nothing about the question that she asked her that seemed like it was dismissive or being rude. And even Portia said that. She said, well, everybody else that was around her, they didn't feel like she was being nasty when she asked you about your ring. She just basically said, that's a nice ring. Is that your engagement ring or wedding ring or something? And you was like, this is my second ring, my anniversary ring. Kenya didn't come nasty to you when she asked that. Maybe you were just gunning and waiting to get to Kenya. Maybe you was a fan of the show, been watching it for a while and feel you're going to come in there and take over. And I'm going to set Kenya in her place. That's what I felt was going on at that particular time. Now, fast forward to the event, Portia actually asked her, she said, hey, did you mention anything about a pistol? Because I really didn't hear all of that. And Britt pretty much admit, yeah, she did that. And I said, oh my God, this girl, you pretty much admitted that you did say that I had a pistol in here and da 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 da. So Kenya's looking at her like, not Kenya. Portia's looking at her like, oh my God, this girl has screwed up. Portia already was waiting for her. So Portia said, maybe you need to reach out to Kenya before the show. And I don't know what happened, but I guess Britt never got to that part. So we're going to move on to the actual show. Okay, we get there. Everything is beautiful. People taking pictures. The guests are arriving, hugging Kenya. She's having conversations with people. Kenya looks awesome. The salon is really decorated pretty nice. It's a small space, for the amount of people, but it's big, it's a salon. And the hair show was like really good. Those four models, they did a good job. Whoever did their hair did an excellent job. Then Kel comes in. After everybody else has arrived, did their hugs, and I'm sorry, not Kel. Drew come in, that's a whole nother story. But Portia looks at Drew, gives her the evil eye, and kept it pushing. We can talk about that later on, because I just think that's a made up storyline. Then Kel come in and Britt, and that's when everything went to craps. They get out the car. They come in there. Britt brings the flowers. Kenya's on the other side of the room. Everybody's talking and whispering, waiting on something to go down. She gets her opportunity to go talk to Kenya. She takes the flowers, handed to her. Kenya said, put them down. She didn't want them and walked away. Britt like, okay, whatever. And at some point, Britt and I believe it was Kel decided to go ahead and leave. They were just going to go ahead and leave the event because they can, and it might have been Angela. I think it was Britt and Kelly though. She decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead and leave. Because in Kelly's eyes, she's never seen Britt act like that. That was a different Britt. Y'all got to get to know Britt. She's a nice girl. So Carol hangs out with Britt, I assume. So they're walking toward the door. Kenya decides to make her speech. Kenya, I don't know why. I literally was rooting for you. In Tyra Banks' form, we were rooting for you, Kenya. There were so many people last week that was like, justice for Kenya. Justice for Kenya. We wanted justice for you because we felt that girl was wrong. But once again, you outdid yourself. You really did. So as they're walking out, Kenya's doing her speech. It was nothing like, she thanked everybody for showing up, but then she went into this whole hateration speech. There are people out here that's been coming for me and talking bad about me and da da da. Instead of saying, I thank everybody for being here. I put so much hard work into getting where I'm at today. And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. I appreciate y'all's support. Leave it there. This was your day. This was your moment. This was something that can never be taken away from you. It will go down in history. It will go down in the history of the Housewives. It will go down in the history of your life. And your daughter may see this someday. Why did you make the speech about Britt? Even if you was mad at her, you could have handled that after the event. You could have just kikied with Brittany, accepted the flowers for now, and once everything closed down and went home, then you could have had your conversation with Britt. But see, this is Kenya Moore. This is the girl who wore the fake booty to mess with Phaedra. This is the girl who came in a marching band at Marlo's event. Kenya never stops. And Bravo is half the blame. This is the girl that brought the scepter to the reunion, the first reunion, when she was all up in Portia's face, hitting her with it. Andy sat there in that chair and watched her do it. See, these reality shows breed a certain type of person. And then when a person gets out of control, then you want to fire them and get rid of them instead of keeping it maintained and controlled in the beginning. Same thing happened with Mia on Potomac. Thought it was all cute with all this love story, triangle, old man, rich woman. And then when it started getting out of control, then the lies got out of control, then you want to get rid of Mia. That's another story. Same thing with Robin. Y'all let Robin get away for years, harassing people, bullying people, never telling her true life. And then when she got a little bit out of control, where it got to the point where people couldn't stand Robin, then y'all got rid of her. Y'all create these personalities and these personas in people, and they run with it. And then when it gets out of control, you get rid of them and take no responsibility. Now, I'm not saying Kenya should not be accountable for her actions, but I'm saying that network and that show also needs to be accountable for allowing Kenya's foolery to go on for so many years. And again, I don't hate Kenya. I like Kenya because I don't know her personally. Okay? So anybody that's on Team Twirl, don't come at me. I don't know Britt. I don't know Kenya. I only do my reviews off of what I see on television. And everything I say is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. So let's get that clear. This particular week, Kenya was wrong. Last week, I felt Britt was wrong. Okay? Now, going forward, Kenya does a speech all about the haters. Nothing about positivity. This your day. Your speech should be positive. You should be happy. You should never have this be the memory of you opening your salon. This should not be the face of your salon, and that's what it is. So after you do all of that, then you said you call her name out and you say, who is this person? And you start unveiling these photos that you grew up, these big poster board photos that you grew up, that you blew up to show everybody who she is. Because you want to put her on blast because she hurt your feelings. That was so childish to me. So then you do these photos and it's like, okay, we did the photos, everybody looking like in shock. Oh, I can't believe she did that. Oh my God, this can't be true. Andy's, I'm not Andy. The girls are looking and they're kind of shocked, but they're okay for the moment. But when she went to that second poster board, and again, apparently there was photos of Brittany doing some SES acts or some oral communication with some people. And people were so shocked, and I don't know how bad it looked, but when Bravo put on a warning and a caption after a scene, that lets you know it was bad. And when the cast members walk out, including the audience people who are there, the outside of the cast, the other people, when they start walking out the door, security showing up, that lets you know it was just that bad. When Portia said, "Get this mic off of me, I don't want to be a part of it," that let you know it was that bad. Now, mind you, Kenya was on that season when Portia and Phaedra went through the whole SES dungeon with Candy and Todd. She was on that season. And Portia lost her job for that. So me thinks, why would you pull something like that when you know that is zero tolerance on that show? They don't play stuff like that. Did you forget? You went all over Phaedra and Portia. You reamed them for messing with your girl Candy about that. And you turn around and do something just as bad or worse. Because in the words of your castmate Cynthia Bailey, she said you didn't go to hell, you went below hell. And if Cynthia say that and she your friend, it was bad. Thank God they're not allowed to show that on TV. But my God, Kenya. And I was rooting for you. We was thinking Kenya should have been on the show. This girl did Kenya dirty. But Kenya, that was much. Britt may have said some threatening things. And that's something she could apologize for and get over and never happen again. But what you did, you really ruined your own career on this show. Now, I don't know if there's ever going to be a comeback, but it seems like the word on the street is they want you off for good. People don't want to see you back. They felt you hit below the barrel. But this is what I'm talking about. Andy and Bravo, well, I won't say Andy because he's not physically on the scene, but Bravo should have toned down her behavior years ago. And you know what? Second thought, I will add Andy. Andy too. Because he would always let Kenya go too far. Just for shock and awe. Just to keep the ratings up. Kenya should have been toned down years ago. And this is what happens when you allow people to continue to do things that is inappropriate just for ratings. And you don't correct them. Same crap happened over there with Carlos King in Huntsville. They was letting shit go for shock value and ratings. They didn't know when to reel it in. And right then and there, Kenya should have been reeled in. That's just the way I see it, okay? I didn't go over the whole show and everything that happened, but that was the most important thing that I saw on the show, was this whole Kenya, the SES thing should never happen. And last but not least, Andy has the mitigated gall to go on his podcast, and now he wants to explain away everything that happened. Andy, you're part of the problem. You can hear what Andy says, and I'll play the video, and I'll put up my Fair Trade Act, Fair Use Act on here. Hopefully y'all don't take my video down. But I'll play it so you can hear what Andy had to say about Kenya and what happened on the show. And just so you know, I'm just going to give you a warning. There is some explicit and graphic language on here. Not too bad, but I just want you to listen up anyway.
What happened is that Britt made a comment at the end of last week's episode, like, I have a gun and a whip, or something like that.
I saw that.
And on this week's episode, they all said to Britt, that you can't say that shit. And she was like, yeah, you're right, whatever. She shows up to Kenya's opening of her gorgeous salon, which is beautiful, that Kenya has worked so hard on, that she dedicated to her daughter. And it's this big event, opening it with all these people there. And Britt comes in and brings her flowers and says, I want to apologize to you, and a note. And Kenya totally ignores her, like totally. And Britt's like, okay, I'm just going to leave these here. And Britt leaves. And then Kenya gets up and makes her whole opening about someone came after me and they shouldn't have. And I started looking into who this woman is, and this is who she is. And she starts showing pictures of her.
Or like poster board that she printed
out. And this is like
one of the pictures is
revenge
her.
porn type.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the pictures is her, like,
oral sexing.
Yeah. And so, and the Atlanta Housewives are like, we're out. You don't want any. The place like clears out.
Yeah.
And then there's and Cynthia said, in all my time at the show, this is the lowest I've ever seen anything get. And so that's what, and then there's a slide at the end of the show that says, Bravo, stop filming with Kenya after this.
Well, they say, like, there's all this talk of, after the Me Too movement, it's like if you show someone a dick pic or a nude pic without them saying, yes, I would like to see that right now, that's like sexual assault.
Yes, Jordan?
Well, I was going to say, the bad part of it and the sad part of it was that, like you said, it was Kenya's opening of her store that she's worked so hard for, and it has been Kenya Moore hair care for years, and it was like a big moment for her.
Why
and
did she do that?
She should have been celebrating herself, but instead she used the time to do revenge porn and bring somebody else down. And at the end of the day, it was such a bad look for Kenya.
Yeah, why would
and
she
she
do that?
sabotaged herself and her business.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, Kenya wasn't too fond of what Andy said on his podcast with his two co-hosts. So Kenya decided that she gonna, reply back to what Andy and them said on the podcast, and she sent this. And again, all of this is courtesy of the Bravo Shade Room. I did get these screenshots from them, and I actually got the actual recording from them. Kenya responded to the two co-hosts. They are extremely ignorant. She said sexual assault is not the R word. Remember, that's what happened with Phaedra when Phaedra accused Candy of attempting to do to Portia, which we talked about earlier. Revenge P is someone showed Kim K sex tape to you. Is that a revenge P? She said, I found that plus tons of others online. She signed a release for it, so it's a fair receipt. And then she put a warning. If you are not an attorney and familiar with Georgia law, then STFH, and we all know that means shut the front door or shut the F up. Sick of the bias, selective outrage. The comments should have not been aired. It's a podcast. Where is legal? You don't want to activate Kenya. I shouldn't have shown it at my event, but for the love of God, why would they ignore a clear gun threat? So Kenya is trying to say that she felt somewhat fearing for her life situation. Somebody threatened her with a gun. And she's saying that Britt signed a release form for this to happen, to be shown on the air. So she feel like it's fair game. And Andy and them should not be throwing these words out there lightly. Now, again, when she referred to the Candy and the Phaedra and the Portia incident, I just think it's kind of similar, not the same, but it is similar. And Kenya, you was outraged by what you alleged that they were trying to do to Portia. And you turn around and do a not similar, but an attack on Britt using SES Act. And that's just wrong. That's just wrong all around. So on this week, I would say Kenya probably was in the wrong, even though Britt started the whole thing and initiated this over a comment about a ring. Remember this. This is when Kenya walked up to Britt. They first meeting each other at Shamia's estate, castle, mansion, Sterling Manor, whatever you want to call it. And she asked her, that's a pretty ring on your finger. Is that an engagement ring or something to that effect? And she snapped after that. It's not an engagement. It's a 1-year anniversary ring. And from that, everything spiraled out of control. So that's why I said, Britt, why are we worried about a ring? You got a big old rock on your finger. Why do you care whether she thought it was one ring or another? You said it was shade. We know Kenya, and we know Kenya's shade. That really wasn't that much shade that she threw at you. There's other things she probably could have said. Okay? Word on the curve. Britt was an industry girl. She did admit to dating Rick Ross on the show. She was a video girl. So I'm not holding anybody's past against them, but let's not sit here and act like you're innocent either. Now, again, lesson learned, young ladies. Please stop allowing people to videotape you and take pictures of you, even if you in love with them. That's my boo. Stop allowing that, because you never know how far these pictures and videotapes will go when there's a breakup or a falling out. Stop it. If you do it and delete it right away. Get it out the clouds. Just delete it. Don't even be able to pull it back up again. Okay? Because at some point, Britt had to know these pictures were out there. Okay? I don't know if she knew who took them. I don't know if she willingly took them. But at some point, she had to know they was out there. Because apparently, if Kenya can go pull them up that fast, the rest of the world can too. So make sure when you're going after people that your backyard and back door is clean too. Make sure your house is clean. Before, as people live in the glass houses shouldn't throw rocks. You shouldn't have been out there going after Kenya like that. And you had some dirt that easily could have been found on you. Because one thing they do on reality TV is play detective. That was a big mistake, Britt, going after Kenya like that. Kenya, in the words of Cynthia Bailey, you went lower than hell on this one. I don't condone anybody using any type of revenge P or pornography or anything like that against a person in a way in which you did it because you were pissed off at them. So I want to get my lick back and show the world who she really is. That was just wrong. You probably could have done that at a tea party with all the girls, but you didn't have to do it in front of all these strange people and then advertise it on TV. So yeah, you was wrong for that. And it seemed like the other housewives all agree. So I wish you the best of luck in the future. I doubt if we see Kenya back to the housewives anytime soon. I hope her salon gets the business going. Somebody said it was closed. I don't know. I don't live in that area. But, you know, there's always a way back, Kenya, because you are a lovable personality and people will miss you on the show. But you're going to have to sit out like Phaedra did for a few years on this one and maybe ease your way back on. But for right now, you probably need to figure out something else to do because I don't think the Housewives is in your future anytime soon. And Britt, hopefully you'll be here next year. We get to know a little bit more about you. But chill out and calm down. You don't have to snap at everybody. We like a little shade and fun, but y'all just need to know when to bring it and when to pull it back. And with that being said, this is Generation X Nation. I did put up the fair use disclaimer while using these videos. I appreciate every single person who subscribed to the channel, who liked my channel. Please continue to do so. Please continue to use a comment. Please keep supporting my channel. I don't ask for anything. Again, all my comments are alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't know any of these people. I do my commentary based off of what I see on TV week to week. And this week, I'm going to have to say, Kenya, you blew it. Last week it was Brittany. This week is Kenya. And let's hope she get it together. And with that, you guys go out and have a great rest of your day. Be safe out here in the streets. Remember, God is always in control. Peace, and I'm out.